Please welcome to the stage, Jim Mangold. Woo! Matt Damon. Christian Bale. Tracy Letts. Katrina Balfe. Noah Jupe. Jon Bernthal and John Lucas. This is what I got, man. Welcome. Thank you for this incredible ride, this incredible experience. Thank you so much for bringing this film to Toronto. It's so exciting. My first question is for Matt Damon.
Well, you tell everyone, Matt's actually getting on a plane in 20 minutes, so that's why we're giving him the first questions, because otherwise, of course, they would all go to
everybody else.
Noah, the first question.
Exactly. So your performance is so textured, the way that you manage like your friendship with Christian, and also the desires of the Ford company. What did you draw from? How did you draw that inspiration? How did you elicit this incredible performance?
Thanks. Well, that's a very nicely phrased question. No, for me, the whole way into this thing, I'm not a car person. Jim's not a car person. The whole way in was about people who collaborate and cooperate to make something that's bigger than they are, and that's kind of what we all spend our lives doing. And so I could really, relate to Carroll Shelby. Like I'm not cars were really important to this guy. They weren't, they don't really have that kind of meaning to me. But I do understand that feeling of wanting to build something with my friends, and so that was how I really connected with the guy.
Yeah, and you have to straddle that relationship between the person that truly understands the car and the company that just wants, results, which is so interesting about.
Well, that's also our world,
right?
Yes.
There's like a 1-to-1 comparison to making.
It's absolutely perfect. We all recognize our lives in those situations, making movies.
And is that what attracted you all to this story then?
I loved the characters. I loved the variation in the characters. I loved I loved that everyone was coming with a different agenda. I also loved the world of the cars as it was unfolded to me, meaning that discovering what racing, I was never turned on by racing on sports shows, and other racing movies hadn't turned me on, but I felt that the characters, when I read about them and researched them and learned about them, were making me interested, because there were so many. Every character played by these actors had a different agenda or a different need coming out of this world. Very much, again, like us when we make movies, where we all meet is where the nexus of all our desires cross, and that to me was the interesting part of it, and trying in a way. I'm always trying to make, when I made Walk the Line, I was trying to make a movie for people who might say, Johnny Cash movie, I don't, what is it, drinking and driving and drinking. And like, how could I turn them around? Because I know it's that much more than that. And I assume the racing world has to be more interesting than long, slow panning shots of cars in a very distant, long lens. So and then the movie teaches us it is. I learned that it is. And in some way, hopefully some of you guys in the audience who might have come with trepidation gone, I don't give a shit about this, were like, that was more interesting than I thought,
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also very much a film about friendship. I mean, I differentiate a car. I mean, I know blue cars and white cars, but I loved this movie. I love this movie, and it's incredibly paced. It's very passionate, and it really digs deep into these friendships. And I appreciate that. How did you How did you approach that?
Speak to that, Matt, because you're going to leave in 5 minutes.
Exactly.
It's definitely a movie about friendship. That was my way, and because I didn't really care about the car world that much, but I cared incredibly when I read the script about these guys, and their passion for what they were doing and how different they were from one another, and that conflict, and how that conflict kind of fueled their innovation and their creation of this. This car, and so I'm gonna turn it over to Christian to talk about.
Ladies and gentlemen, Matt Damon.
Thank you.
That's it. You're good.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
He's shooting a movie right now in Europe, so he's literally on a plane right now to wake up and start shooting.
Thank you for being
Bye,
with
guys.
us. So,
I've got to
Christian,
say,
over
just,
to you.
you know, Matt and I spoke after he had first seen the film, and he apologized to me about that last scene, and he went, I just didn't manage it. And I went, holy fuck, man, you managed it. That I find that one of the most moving scenes ever, right there. You know, it's beautiful. And it's something that Jim achieved so beautifully with this film. Precisely, I think, because he's not caught up in the details of racing. He sees the ultimate meaning, of it. And I think Matt does such a wonderful job in this film. It moves me so much. Yeah.
And the work is super subtle.
Yes, you all do. It's an incredible ensemble piece. One of the things that I'm very fascinated with is this is a long film. I could not get enough. How did you manage this incredible pacing?
Well, you should have seen the 3-hour and 15-minute version.
Which is fantastic. I did see it, and it's bloody good.
No, this was about the limit of what I thought I could get away with. I also love it and had very hard time paring back at a certain point because, several reasons. One is that all these characters are so rich, and every time you're paring back and you have this many fully realized characters, you're just taking away from moments and pieces that kind of just fulfill them or complete them or say something more about them that takes you around the corner. And I also felt that the movie I liked the circuitousness of the movie, that the movie, you're not quite sure where it's going and how it's building and how all these people are going to intersect. I'm really tired of movies where you know exactly where it's going, and audiences are very mixed about it. Like, sometimes when a movie doesn't seem to know where it's going, you bitch about it. But then you also bitch about the movies where you know exactly where it's going. So you kind of have to make up your mind. But the reality is that I'm much more of a fan of movies where I'm feeling surprised and I'm not seeing just last year's movie made again in blue with new people. And that to me, it's like our biggest responsibility, and one of the reasons this movie is very dear to me, is that the studio took a big risk making a movie where there is no best-selling book, there is no superhero, there's nothing that compels an audience to come, or especially 12 or 13-year-olds. Please, give it up for 20th Century Fox. If you wanna have a little sympathy for the studio execs, and I think it would speak to the Ford executives' characters in this movie too. They get fired when shit doesn't make money. So it's like, I just go to another studio where they didn't get fired. So the reality is that it's a really tough life, and when you make a movie where the only guarantee that you're going to maybe make $1 on the movie is if we all do a really good job. And if we don't do a good job, you're up shit creek. That is a really scary proposition for a studio, and you're right to applaud them, because this was a scary proposition.
So another of the many interesting thing is you were all playing real people, right? And I'd like to hear a little bit about the research that went into those characters, because they're very fulsome characters, all of them.
I was not familiar with Ken Miles previous to making this film. I was familiar with Carroll Shelby. My dad pointing out AC Cobras and how beautiful cars they were. I'm actually going to watch the film with Peter Miles and his daughter, Ken's son and granddaughter on Sunday, which, bloody hell, how am I not going to blub doing that? But what a character. Ken Miles was just extraordinary, in his passion, and somebody who was a grumpy bastard and difficult and an arsehole at times, but you just missed him so much and you love him and he's an essential part of it. And he's got a dream, and that's really what it's all about, regardless of our, knowledge about racing or not. It's all about a dream that we can all relate to. And ultimately, the first time tonight was when I'd watch it with a big audience. And it was the first time that I'd been able to truly relate it to my own life and people who I've lost as well. And that's really what the film was all about, It happens to be told at 230 miles an hour, but it's really about the people that you love and have lost and the dreams and what you want in your life.
Absolutely, thank you. I do. So I think this question applies to all of you. If you could talk about some of the research, how Noah, you played his son, and how you.
Is that really him? Look at him.
I mean, he's so much bigger.
Is that Peter Miles right there? I couldn't believe it. He's grown about a foot.
So I'm going to have to hear.
He doesn't have a mic?
No, well, Matt.
Oh, here you go. No. Well, I actually didn't get the chance to meet Peter Miles. I know you two did, but I heard he's lovely. Honestly, as a kid, I loved cars and I was always obsessed with them, and I kind of fell out of love with it, I guess. And the reason I wanted to do this movie was because when I read the script, it re-sparked my love of cars, and suddenly I was like, I've been missing this the whole time. If I wasn't an actor, I would have been a racing driver, definitely. So there's that. I mean,
your mother's nodding right over there. She's nodding.
Yeah, Christian, why do you have to take all the driving scenes? I wanted to do some of them. But there was that with the script. It was just incredible, and it described it in such a raw and real way for me, and so that was really intriguing. And then I guess in research, I actually did a school project on Le Mans 66, and because when you're doing a movie like this and you're doing
so
history.
Cheap. You had all the research done already.
Yeah.
That's so cheap.
But I did it anyway, and so I learned about what happened, and I learned about the track and all the different turns, and I really love it. I really love the race, and I want to stay up with my friends next year and try and do the whole thing, the whole 24 hours. Was it this year? I don't know when it is. Anyway, but yeah, I guess just researching the race and researching what happened to Ken, and just doing a bit of history, I guess. Here you go.
To hear from everyone about just exploring this role, what attracted you, how you researched it.
Sure. Well, look. I mean, for me, what attracted me was Jim, the actors, and the ridiculously good script. I think for Lee, there's so much out there on him. A beautiful book by Mr. Novak, and there's a wealth of information. He's unbelievably renowned and revered, this titan of industry. I just thought it was a really wonderful opportunity to pinpoint Lee at this space and time when he was full of ambition and hope and nerves, and he wasn't this titan in industry, but he was on his way, and I think it says a lot about what it takes to make it there. He wasn't born into it, and I connected with him personally, and I'm really grateful that I got to be a part of this.
Leo Beebe kept a note in his wallet from Henry Ford II his entire life that said, keep or just win. And the reason why was because Leo Beebe was in a tank with Henry Ford II. They were in the military together. He had this incredible friendship with him and passion for him as a man and as a leader, and a belief in the company and a belief in the mission of what he felt Ford was supposed to be for this country. So this idea of why he is the bad guy of the movie came from this, like, again, this amazing friendship that he had, this amazing respect he had for his friend. So, I mean, it's kind of a strange, I keep going back to that element of the story, which I find so beautiful. This, even with the bad guy, it comes down to his loyalty to his friend and to his, in a sense, to his company, or you could in some ways say he's the true loyalist. You know, he believes in the mission. And I don't know, that's what I kind of kept going back to, and Jim and I talked about the whole time. And the thing I keep finding so deep and beautiful about this movie, that a movie that is ostensibly this fast, wonderful, furious piece of entertainment, is truly at its core about something so much deeper and so much more lovely, actually. So, yeah.
Well, obviously the script was incredible. Working with Jim was a huge, huge draw, and then Christian as well. But what I loved about this character and sort of the relationship that Molly and Miles had is about the importance of teamwork. You know, it's the teamwork of the team race car driving, but it's the importance of teamwork in marriage. And that was a really beautiful thing too. And it, you know, it made me think of my mom and my dad and their relationship. And I was very lucky to be able to meet Peter Miles as well. And, you know, he was so generous with his time and gave me the most incredible story that Molly wrote for Drive magazine about the first date she ever had with Miles, which was bonkers. He took her on a vintage car drive and they got broken down and she didn't get home till like 2 a.m. and she was 16 years old. It was amazing. But it was just an incredible experience, and I feel very, very grateful to be here.
I didn't do a lot of research.
Is that it?
The script was very good. I watched a couple of YouTube videos that were not helpful. But I had a great haircut. I really feel like the haircut was
It was in the back.
Yeah, no,
I
the
loved
haircut,
it in the back.
The haircut was kind of the key to the whole thing.
Well, Tracy's making a really interesting point, which is that research can't get in your way. Because you could read as many versions of Lee Iacocca's life as you can find books. And you could find, there's a lot of times, I mean, speaking as a director of actors, I've seen it get majorly in the way if people don't know how to use it or sample it the right way. Which is that you aren't playing the person. You're playing the person in service of this story. And that you can't carry any more than they exhibited every attribute that they ever had in their life in every day. They didn't in their lives. They were different people every day. It's a very dangerous game. You know, when I was making Walk the Line, I'm always reminded of this. Joaquin had this one thing he always asked me to say to him. He'd come up every day and he'd go, say that thing. And I go, you're not Johnny Cash. And he'd go, thank you. And then, and it was like a relief from the pressure that he was somehow having to do some kind of thesis, which is not the job of an actor, but is actually to try to take essences and ideas of who that person was, but also serve the greater story. And I think in all of Tracy's humor, he's actually, he did that, meaning you can figure out an awful lot about who a person is from what they do. And if the script features what they do, if you play what they do, you start to become them, even if you don't know shit about them. And it's kind of amazing.
That's what I meant to say. Thank you, Jim.
There you go.
Thank you for articulating that so beautifully.
No.
It's absolutely wonderful. I just want to thank you all for being here at TIFF, sharing this incredible film with us. And to all of you, Ford versus Ferrari,
Thank
tell
you for
everyone
staying up
about
late
it.
with us
Yes,
tonight.
it's
Thank you very
amazing.
much. Bravo. Thank you so much.